The Tokugawa shogunate ruled Japan for over 250 years, from 1603 until 1867, and the family that founded it is now on its 19th head. A few hundred meters from Okazaki Castle, where Tokugawa Ieyasu himself was born in 1543, a miso company has been run by the same family through the same hereditary title for the same 19 generations. Its warehouses still hold wooden barrels stacked with 3 tons of riverstone, aging miso the same way they did 4 centuries ago. 2 institutions that trace their entire authority back to the exact same decades of the early 1600s, one that survives today mostly as a ceremonial memory, and one that still ships jars of fermented soybean paste every week. And in 2017, that second one almost lost the legal right to use its own name.
Sometime around 1645, in the early Edo period, a family named Hayakawa began making miso in a town called Yahachicho, just outside Okazaki Castle, the same Okazaki where Tokugawa Ieyasu himself was born. The company took its name from its location, Hatcho, meaning 8 blocks from the castle. In 1878, when the company reported its own history to the Aichi prefectural government, it gave 1645 as its founding year, and that's the date still used today. Every head of the company since has taken the same hereditary name, Hayakawa Kyuuemen. The current one is the 19th. In 1932, the family formally incorporated the business as a limited partnership, the same corporate structure under different names that still runs the company now.
Surviving 380 years isn't about standing still. Japan's Meiji government spent the late 19th century dismantling the old feudal economy that companies like this one had depended on for centuries. Merchants who had built their business supplying samurai households lost their core customers almost overnight once the feudal domains themselves were abolished in 1871. In 1892, as that transition accelerated, the company secured a contract to supply miso to the imperial household ministry. On December 28, 1901, it was formally named a purveyor to the imperial court. That single relationship gave a small regional miso maker something almost no competitor had, a reason for the entire country to trust its name, even after the shogunate itself was gone. Many miso makers across Japan who depended purely on regional feudal ties quietly closed in the decades that followed. This one had already found a new patron, the modern Japanese state itself.
The next real test came after the war. Traditional miso makers who refused to adapt to modern retail simply disappeared, one by one over the 20th century, as small neighborhood miso merchants lost ground to self-service grocery stores. Between 1957 and 1959, the company pushed its Akadashi red miso directly into the new supermarket chains spreading across Japan, and it worked. The company leaned into that new identity. In 1963, it renamed itself Hatcho Miso Kakukyu, and in 1981 shortened that again to simply Hatcho Miso, tying its own corporate name permanently to the product it had spent 3 centuries perfecting. That decision is arguably what kept an Edo period miso maker relevant into the era of the modern supermarket.
Now here's where the story gets strange, and where you need to look at Japan's own agricultural registry, not an English language summary. In December 2017, Japan's Ministry of Agriculture published its official geographical indication registry, the legal system that protects regional food names the way champagne is protected in France. Under the entry for Hatcho Miso, registered on December 15, 2017, the producer group was not the company you're watching right now. It was the Aichi Prefecture Miso and Tamari Soy Sauce Industrial Cooperative, an association of 39 companies spread across the entire prefecture. This 380-year-old company wasn't a member. Neither was its one neighboring rival in the same 2-block district, the only other maker still using the traditional stone-stacked method. Two companies that had made Hatcho Miso in Hatchocho since the Edo period were now watching a name they'd used for centuries get registered to a group they didn't belong to.
The reason is almost bureaucratic in its absurdity. Nobody accused these two companies of making bad miso or of doing anything wrong. This wasn't a fraud case. It was a paperwork gap. They simply weren't named on the list. When Japan's GI system launched, this company and its one neighboring rival applied first, defining the production area as exactly what it had always been, their own two-block corner of Okazaki, the literal meaning of the word Hatcho. The ministry pushed back, arguing a name that specific couldn't be registered to two companies alone, and asked them to widen the registered area to cover the entire prefecture instead. Rather than risk an outright rejection of their application, they withdrew it in June 2017. 6 months later, the prefecture-wide association filed its own application and registered Hatcho Miso without them. For a moment, the company that had used that exact name since the 1600s, the company the name Hatcho literally describes, was legally on the outside looking in, while 39 companies scattered across Aichi, most of them nowhere near the original 8 blocks, held the registration instead. It took until October 2019 for a government panel to partially side with the original makers. It took until January 2025, 8 years after the original registration, for the ministry to formally add this company and its neighbor back into the registered producer group. A name that survived 380 years of shoguns, wars, and supermarkets nearly got lost to a modern trademark dispute over a technicality about geography on the one company for which that geography was literally the entire point. It took nearly a decade to get it back.
It's tempting to read this as a company nearly destroyed by paperwork. But look at what actually happened during those 8 years. Production never stopped. The miso kept aging exactly the way it always had. 6-ton wooden barrels, cut from Yoshino cedar, packed with fermenting soybean paste. On top of each one, 3 tons of natural river stone, 300 to 400 individual stones hauled up from the Yahagi River and stacked by hand into a cone, with no binding, no frame, nothing holding them up but their own weight and the skill of a craftsman. Workers say it takes over 10 years of apprenticeship just to learn how to stack that pile so it won't collapse. Once stacked, the barrels sit in wooden warehouses with no temperature control for at least 2 years, 2 summers and 2 winters, while the company waits. None of that process has meaningfully changed since long before geographical indication law existed anywhere in Japan. That conical stone stacking technique exists in exactly 2 buildings on Earth, this one and its neighbor, both in the same 2-block district the ministry tried to write out of the registration. The dispute was entirely about the name attached to the product, not the product itself. In a strange way, that's the whole story of how a company survives 380 years. Everything you can protect with a lawsuit is negotiable. Everything that takes 2 years to ferment under 3 tons of stone isn't.
The comparison that opened this video wasn't just a curiosity. The Tokugawa family survived by losing all real political power, becoming a ceremonial name that modern Japan quietly preserves out of respect for history. This company survived by doing the opposite, staying in the exact same 2-block address, making the exact same product in the exact same barrels, and being willing to spend 8 years in a bureaucratic fight just to keep using its own name. It survived shoguns, world wars, the collapse of imperial-era patronage, and a modern ministry that briefly forgot which company its own protected name actually belonged to. Today, it's still a modest, family-run operation, roughly 55 employees and just over $1 billion yen in annual sales. Nothing close to the scale of the industrial cooperative that briefly held its name. Longevity in Japan isn't inherited, it's re-earned, generation by generation, sometimes in a courtroom or a ministry office instead of a kitchen.
A company older than the United States, still stacking 3 tons of river stone by hand, still fighting bureaucratic battles as recently as 2025, just to keep its own name on its own miso. That's what 4 centuries of survival actually looks like. Not untouched tradition, but tradition that keeps having to defend itself. Subscribe for the next one.